Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career and candidate search. I'm your host, Casey Hasten, Executive Recruiter, Director of Recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. Today, I have a very special guest with me. He is an incredible personality, and I'd like to welcome Randall Kenneth Jones to our show. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce him as Randy. Randall Kenneth Jones is kind of his stage name. Randy's my friend name, but I want to tell you a little bit more about him. He is the founder and CEO of Mindzoo, a creative communications agency for PR, marketing, and advertising. He's also a successful public speaker and the host of the Jones Show, a business meets entertainment show he co-hosts with the original voice of Siri. So amazing. Today, Randy joins us to discuss his success in his career and how you can ace your next interview. Randy, hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so good.
I got to tell you though, so your audience in many cases are looking for tips on employment and let's say standing out in a crowd.
Yes.
I mean, I'm assuming that's correct. So let me tell you the reason the whole Randy Randall thing, I use Randall Kenneth Jones to stand out, because if you Google Randall Kenneth Jones, you get me and you only get me. If you Google Randy Jones, you get 4,579 different people with the same name. Okay, I'm exaggerating.
I was going to say, did you count them?
If I could, I would. There's so many people that have my name that in order to distinguish myself, I had to use my full name. That's my legitimate full name. But the funny thing is the person that you really get the most for Randy Jones is the original cowboy in the Village People, and I'm not kidding.
That is
Randy Jones
crazy.
is the original cowboy in the Village People. He's so prolific. He's so involved. He charted with a single like a year or two ago. He's all over the place still. So everything's about him. He is my Facebook friend, which is funny because we have the same name. And when he accepted my friend request, which I begged him to, I looked at his bio. We had the same name and we have the same birthday.
That is
I'm serious.
Crazy.
Have the same birthday as the original cowboy from the Village People.
Are you like best friends now?
He follows me on Instagram. He acknowledges everything I do. Yeah, we follow each other. Yeah, no, we've never talked, but yeah, we're social media, very connected and very attentive and good to each other. Yeah.
I wonder how many people in our audience right now are going, who are the Village People?
Oh, that would be bad.
Google it. It's very interesting.
Google it and go to the YMCA. Yeah.
Right.
So
I almost buzzed out in song just then. I never was very good at doing the whole YMCA thing though.
Yeah, because which way do you do the C, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So that other people could see it. So I want to kind of tell our audience how you and I met, because I think it's so important that you put yourself out there. For me, that's networking and going to conferences for professional development. And that's where I met you, was at a conference for professional development, specifically for authors that are looking to write their first book and not wanting to, make the mistakes that a lot of other people have made before. And at this conference, I was
Can we tip our hat to SmartFem?
Can
we tip our hat to SmartFem? Let's tip our hat to the SmartFem.
Yes.
It's Leah Woodward's show. Yeah.
And Leah was just on here a couple episodes ago. So this is like a perfect sequence of events. I'm going to have to see who else I can get from there.
Yeah.
But I was a little worried for you because you were the next speaker and you and I hadn't really talked yet after the fabulous chief investigative
Lisa Guerrero.
Lisa Guerrero. And I was like,
from Inside Edition. Oh, it sucked. And that was the technical term. It sucked. I was scared to death.
So tell us.
And I teach speech. I teach public speaking. I'm all about communications. I work with people. My show is promoting conversation and communication and listening and courtesy. My podcast, my work is so much of it is coming from a positive. What can we do when we approach things from a positive perspective. So here I'm watching Lisa, who was fascinating, who, as you know, Lisa Guerrero, huge, long career as a broadcaster, gives this incredible speech on bravery. She has subsequently been on my podcast, and I will tell you it's been very popular with young women who have written me about that show. But I'm watching this, and it's two different things. I'm fascinated with what she's saying. I don't want to listen to it, but I'm scared to death. So I do. I teach public speaking, and I get scared to death because I thought, what do I do? I mean, my topic at this conference was specifically think on your feet.
Yep.
But that's exactly what Lisa has to do when she chases bad guys through the street.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was sitting there listening to her going, how do I follow this? What do I do? Lisa, throw me a bone. Let me plug in to you. And that's ultimately what I did. Was not that I would call her my opening act.
Yeah, what you did. That was so good.
Is she going to see this? But I kind of did. But I plugged right into the enthusiasm from her group. I took parts of her speech and brought it over to make the transition into mine. And as you know, hers was serious. And even though I believe I have great content with 150 interviews under my belt at this point in time, I'm more about the funny. I'm more about the laughs. I'm more about the enjoyment. So I'm happy to say I believe both Lisa and I did a good job that day. But I plugged into her energy and took pieces and moments from her speech topics and made that be my transition. And that's the advice I give my students.
That is awesome. Well, I will tell you, obviously, I was impressed with you afterwards because I was like pushing people out of the line to get to you. And I was like, we're going to recreate those.
You knocked three people down.
I know.
You knocked three people down. You were very aggressive. Yeah, you were very aggressive.
And I kissed you.
You did.
I know.
You did. I'm blushing a little bit, aren't I? Am I blushing a little bit?
Full on the lips, like what was her name?
Suki.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she kissed me during the presentation, full on the lips. Yeah. So
that's pretty.
Yeah, I'm an easygoing presenter. What can I say?
I was going to say you're just a lovable guy. So I want to kind of start digging into the meat of our conversation today. So let's talk about your podcast for a second. Is it Susan C. or Susan G. Bennett?
Susan C. Bennett, the original voice of Siri, one of my very dear friends. She is the announcer every single week. And she's a recurring guest. So we had her on twice during season 1, where you get to kind of listen to her and how she became Siri. It's fascinating. How Siri was done, fascinating. She's a public speaker as well. I've seen her. She's amazing, telling the whole Siri story. But she's my announcer and one of my very, very dear friends. And so she's part of it every single week. Yeah, to have the original voice of Siri in your corner really is a great situation.
Oh, well, you've got some great people in your corner. Come on, we'll talk about that.
I'm very lucky.
I don't think so. I think you make your own luck happen because you go out of your way to get what you want. And if there's people that you want to meet, you go out of your way. And I'm going to come back to your podcast, but I really want to go back to the story, Thinking on Your Feet, when you met Pat Benatar for the first time. Can you tell us about that?
Okay. For one thing, she's about to come on my podcast, as you know. Pat's coming on the show.
Yeah.
In 1982 in Missouri, my job when I was in college was to do singing telegrams. That cannot surprise anybody who's watching today that my part-time job in college was to put on a chicken suit and run around Columbia, Missouri. That should not be a shock. That's what I did. Well, I have always said my first entrepreneurial idea was I want to meet Pat Benatar. She's coming now. This is before the internet, and I'm in the Midwest, and I'm never going to meet a famous person. Ironically, I was singing with Sheryl Crow at the time in a choir at the University of Missouri, but didn't know she would become Sheryl Crow. Yeah, didn't know she's going to become Sheryl Crow. I wanted to meet her. I sent a request to the Missouri Student Association. It got approved. It wasn't smooth sailing. I won't go into every detail, but in 1982, I rewrote Hit Me With Your Best Shot, took 6 dozen balloons, dressed as Prince Charming with my 80s mustache and my 80s hair, bounced her up and down on my knee, all 93 pounds of her. She was so gracious and so kind that she changed my life. Aww. She changed my life because I knew that I could accomplish more then perhaps I would have believed. I did not stop smiling for 6 months because of Pat Benatar.
Wow.
33 years later, I interviewed her for what became my book. I said, "Did anybody give you our backstory?" Because I was freaking out that I was about to finally see her again. I always wanted, I got to say thank you to her. I got to acknowledge what she did. She was again so gracious and so kind. We've stayed in touch, but she said something to me. She goes, "I don't just remember the telegram, I remember you."
Aw, I love
Magic.
that.
The woman is extraordinary and has continued to be so wonderful to me. Endorsed my book Show Me when it came out. We go to her shows when she comes close to us in Florida. And we hang out in the backstage, and she's doing the podcast. And to
That's
discover that your hero, she was so good to me in 1982, but she's just such a good human being that she still maintained that. Wow, that's special. You want your heroes to be great people, and she's great.
well, several things about what you just said stood out to me. First of all, you had to be brave, right? I mean, you walked into her, you put on a Prince
Okay.
Charming
Yeah, okay. I
outfit,
never thought about that. Okay.
and you
Okay.
sang to her, and you
I was
rewrote.
scared to death when I did it. I was,
Right.
and I was because, I was still 20 years old, and
But you showed up and
I
you
was
did
scared.
it.
I showed up and I did it.
That's important. You have to show up. The other
Yeah.
thing that you said was that you said thank you. And I think that that's
That's
so important.
huge. Well, you know that Peggy Post from the Emily Post Institute, the former director of the Emily Post Institute. Once again, if you don't know who Emily Post is, Google it. Critical that you know about the work of the Emily Post Institute. She's a courtesy and etiquette advocate. Emily Post wrote a book in 1922 called Etiquette, and I've learned so much from being around Peggy Post, one of my very best friends, very, very dear to me. But when one of your dear friends is an etiquette manners expert, you got to step up to the plate, do the right thing. And so I believe I'm pretty good at the thank yous and the acknowledgments. I've gotten better at the thank you cards, which has kind of gone away. But part of my platform and what I speak about is we are so wired. One of the advantages to the fact that we are connected as we are is we have the opportunity to reach out and find a teacher, a
Oh,
former boss, a,
yes.
a former colleague, the people that have influenced us and had a positive impact on our lives. We can tell them.
Yes.
We can find them now. Not always, but you can find them and tell them. If you've got a teacher that meant something to you, trust me, they want you to tell them that. Teachers don't get enough credit for anything they do. Find the teacher, find the boss, find the colleague, find the person who helped you and tell them what they meant and continue to mean to you. I jump up and down and scream and yell that message all the time. And I do it. And I do it.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about your podcast for a second. Your content is always so engaging and you have some fantastic guests and it's always entertaining. But, for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to create the podcast and what takeaways you think listeners can get from it?
I started interviews in 2012. I'll give kind of the overview quickly. And it was actually I live in Naples, Florida, and it was for a business column in the newspaper because I just moved to Naples, Florida, and I wanted to meet people, and there were successful people here. I went to the newspaper and said, "Hey, there's all these successful people that live here full-time or part-time or pass through. Does anybody talk to them?" They said, "No, do you want to do it?" And I said, "Yes." So from 2012 to 2016, I was talking to these incredibly successful people as to why they were successful, asking them how to live a better life. Not just, I don't want to just know what people do. I want to know why they do it. And I also want to know how they do it. And I don't, everybody can have a conversation. Everybody can be inquisitive. Everybody can ask questions. Well, after 4 years of writing the column, that became my book, Show Me,
Oh, I didn't know
which
that.
came out. Yeah, that became my book. That was so there's over 100 interviews that went together, best practices, how to live a better life at home and at work. Interviews went into Show Me. Well, after the book came out, I missed that. It was a drug to be able to, well, you experience this now doing what you do. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
exactly what my is. This is joy.
Yeah.
When you can sit down across from another human being and say, teach me, tell me, how can I live better? How can I work better? How can I be a better human being? And you can learn how they did it. It feeds your soul. And I missed it desperately. And I had a lot of people after the book came out said, I would have loved to have been there to hear the interviews. And I was like, wow, through a podcast, you can.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you record any of those original ones?
I did.
Okay,
Several of them are recorded. I don't have permission. They're not recorded at, at a quality level that I could actually put them on. A lot of those people have come back. I got a birthday call this past weekend. Okay, I'm going to say, so somebody called me from my book and from my podcast this weekend, had a 2.5-hour conversation. Of the people that I know, who do you think called me and talked to me for 2.5 hours this weekend?
Aaron Brockovich.
You are correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
You are correct.
That is.
Yeah. I mean, she's so special. She is everything you want her to be. Fans of the film. She continues to work tirelessly for all of us for water. She is somewhat alone in that fight. It's still amazing how things have not improved with water and with water issues since 2000. I mean, the original Case in Hinckley was in the 90s. The film was in 2000 starring Julia Roberts, and she's still fighting for us. And we all need that person whose intuition knows when we need a lift, that person who knows, that friend who knows when you need a pick-me-up, who knows when something's wrong, who knows the right thing to say, who knows how to lift you up, just kind of intuitively knows you need them. My person is Erin Brockovich. Can you even, it's ridiculous. She knows every single time when I need to hear from her. It's unbelievable. She knows exactly what to say every single time. And we met through an interview.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. She's one of the interviews in your book, right?
She's one of the interviews in the book. She wrote the introduction for the book, and she has already appeared on season 1 of the podcast, and I'm sure she'll come back. I
would hope so.
Every time I even talk to her, it's a master class in life. And everything that comes out of her mouth, I'm going, wow, I wish I were recording this. It's unbelievable. Her perspective on life and the world around her. It's unbelievable. She's so special.
That's maybe one of these days you can introduce me to her.
One of these days we can see if we can make that happen.
Yeah. I'm following Leah's advice. Get your ass in gear, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question specific for our candidates that are interviewing. Okay. So I know, as a recruiter, I love it when candidates, and because I interview my candidates for my clients before the client interviews them. I'm vetting them. And I love it when they engage with me and they ask me questions and show that they're interested. So in your experience, what are some other ways interviewees can show their interest and excitement when they're interviewing with clients?
Authenticity is huge. I think we're spinning into a world where fake is used a lot, and false are not what we're after. I think people want real. I think they're looking more for the authentic, real human being. And that applies to my podcast, that applies to life, that applies to interviewing. I don't think it's difficult. If you want the job, it should not be that difficult for them to see that you want it. If you don't want it, boy, you're going to have a tough time convincing them you do. Because I think most of the people, Casey, who do what you do know the difference. I believe that you're trained to know the difference between the candidate is putting on the show and the candidate is being real. Now, the best way, and I talk to speakers about this, communicators at any point in time, the best way to keep your foot out of your mouth is to put stuff in your head worth sharing.
Oh.
And if you're going to interview with somebody, we've got this cool thing. It's called the World Wide Web. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really, really cool. You can find information on all sorts of stuff on it. It's great. And you can actually, with the internet, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for ever walking into a meeting or an interview without information up to and including, I actually happen to see that you won best jelly or best jam at the state fair or whatever. I don't know. You can find these personal anecdotes on people so you understand who they are as human beings, because chances are, not that you're trying to be inappropriate, but if it's out in the news and you find out something that you might find a personal connection. And people, people want to work with people they like.
Very true. So
back in the day, we couldn't do that. We had to literally glean that information from what was hanging on the wall of someone's office, the photos on someone's desk. Oh, are these your kids? Do you like hunting? Do you like whatever it was? But now we've got the web. You should go in prepared and knowledgeable. If someone's written a book, read it.
Right.
Be prepared. Sure. It's not complicated.
For sure.
Then you'll come.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about your personal anecdotes. So we did some research on you, and I thought I knew.
Oh no!
I thought I knew you, and come to find out, now I'm going to have to look at this because there's no way I can remember this word. That you are a self-described card-carrying leperophobe. Did I say it right? Leperophobe. What is a leperophobe?
I'm terrified of bunnies.
Why? You know what? The cover of your book makes so much sense to me now.
Oh, yeah, because I've got bunnies there. And I wasn't on drugs when we did the book. When people are like, there's bunnies on there. I mean, literally, I'm interviewing Sam Champion from ABC News, and he stopped the interview and said, there's bunnies on the cover of your book. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm terrified of bunnies. I mean, he was like, I've got to know more. I said, well, that's why there's bunnies on the cover of my book. What I'm going to say as an answer is, in my past, I was at work, I was naked, and I was attacked by a bunny.
No, you're making this up.
Oh, have I ever? I mean, I'm told the truth. No, it's the truth.
What kind of work were you doing?
Bunny. See, you have to read the book to find out the whole story.
No.
Yeah, that's where I'm tricky. I dangle that out there.
Yeah.
See, if you want to hear the whole bunny story, you gotta get the Show Me book and read it. But I'm truly, I've gotten better because I feel like I live in the enchanted forest, and I see 20 bunnies a day running around my neighborhood. And in Southwest Florida, there's a lot of bunnies. So I've kind of had to get over it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm cuddling with them or hanging out with them or inviting them in the house. I would never do that. But yeah, I'm terrified of bunnies.
That makes more sense. So what advice would you give to our candidates who may have their own bunny when it comes to their career path? Maybe there's something they're afraid of that's holding them back from taking that next step.
Well, I use it. I'm legitimately afraid of bunny. Use your fear. I own it. I don't pretend that it's for me. And I think this applies across the board. I put bunnies on the cover of my book. I own the fear. I have fun with the fear. I deal with the fear by having it be part of my personality, by making it part of who I am. So I don't shy away. I don't hide it. I don't hide the fear. I acknowledge the fear. And I actually think, you may disagree with me, and please tell me if you do, but they will always want to know in an interview, what's your strengths, what's your weaknesses.
Hate those questions.
They really do want to know your weakness. And there's a way to candidly state your weakness in a way, your fear or your weakness in a way that is positive, because it's something you're working toward improving upon.
Did that answer the question? Yes. And that is exactly how I coach my candidates. Yeah, just especially on that weakness question. I tell them, you want to take something that's true, like a fear or a weakness, and the formula is, just like you said, you spin that into a positive. I said, but it needs to be authentic, because here's what I hear all the time. I'm too detail oriented. Okay, we all see right through that. That's not a weakness. You're just saying that it is. So I really challenge people when they're thinking about that question to really, do a self-evaluation and be honest about that. Because I think that, like, going back to what you said earlier, authenticity, I think that the interviewer is going to appreciate that more than the candid answer that everyone gives.
I will tell you that I believe my weakness is that I'm too detail oriented, but I go further and I explain it in more detail. So I don't hide behind that. No. Now let me tell you, because I'm digging deeper on that particular comment.
Okay.
Because I understand that's a fluffy answer. I'm too detail oriented. My truth is I'm not as patient as I should be. And that's part of the fact that I'm a Virgo. I want everything done right the first time, which is related to, that's the truth. So that's taking the detail-oriented, fluffy comment, digging deeper, and really sharing the truth.
Yeah, and
So
you
I
can
will
shared
tell
all that
you,
without
I
even
like
saying
things.
that.
Yeah, and I just say I really like things. I'm a Virgo. I really like things done the first time. I'm not as patient as I should be, and I challenge myself to be patient. I'm so aware of this that I'm really conscious that in how I deal with people. So I don't even just state the weakness. I state what I'm doing to overcome it.
Okay. I like that. And I love that your answer went deeper than what most people do, right?
Yeah.
I have another question for you. So you have interviewed and been interviewed. I loved your story about when you were on the Kathy and Hoda show. That was pretty funny
Yeah,
on
Kathy Lee and
national
Hoda. Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
But you've interviewed some pretty big name people: Aaron Brockovich, Pat Benatar, Lisa Guerrero. I mean, just to name a few. What are three
I have, guess
steps?
what? I have Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune
Oh,
coming
I
this season.
saw that. I liked that on
Yeah.
Facebook. That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, I
She's
really,
a,
no one we get to, yeah, we don't get to hear her. I want to hear her.
yeah.
She's supposed to be incredible. She's supposed to be perfect. She's supposed to be just the kindest, nicest human being on the planet. Well, I want that needs to be showcased. Let's hear what Vanna has to say. I'm
And
very excited. I'm very lucky. Yeah.
I cannot wait for that one. So, what are
Yeah.
three steps that you take to prepare to interview your celebrities?
I will do. That's a really great question. First thing, people have to decide in preparation what's going to work for them. I have my friend Eric with Unstructured Podcast. If he has somebody on the show, he's spending 8 to 10 hours per person researching. If they have a book, he's reading the entire book. He is watching them. I mean, he is deep diving on this person so he knows as much as humanly possible about them. That works for some people. I, on the other hand, I come at it with this is why I know why I want to talk to them. And I typically don't want to talk. I'm not going to ask Pat Benatar, so what's your favorite song? We're probably not going to talk about her music at all. We're going to talk about her life. I want to know what makes her tick, what makes her run. So what I actually do that is a little bit different is I research to the point where I'm knowledgeable, but I can still be surprised. Because if I go into an interview and I think I know everything, my Ginger Z from ABC News, I read her entire book and I went so crazy over Ginger's book, I talked too much in the interview. Now, it wasn't awful for her at all because it was one of the best interviews I had, but I'm basically doing a book review and gushing about how great her book was. And she's not going to stop me from doing that. But I went in too knowledgeable. I'd rather go in with thoughts, ideas, impressions, goals, background knowledge, enough for me to be able to have a conversation, but I still want to have a legitimate surprise. I don't want to know so much that I can't go, really? I would have never thought of that. Really, explain that to me. I need for them to be able to surprise me, but I need to be able to ask questions that allow them to surprise me as well.
Those
So the whole thing with me with the interviewing process, and I've seen you do it because, is you listen to the person, you find the thread, they say something that you go, ooh, there's the thread. That's interesting. And while they're talking, you have to hold on to that in your head, and then you pull that thread. And
I
you
like
just,
the way you
there's
described that.
and you pull that thread and you see what else is there, what else is there. So my preparation is, I know about my person. I know who they are. I know where they came from. I know what they're known for. I know a lot about them, but never so much that they can't surprise me.
I love that you just said that. So, I have three questions that I like to ask everyone at the end of the show because, believe it or not, can you believe we have been talking for 30 minutes almost?
It never surprises me because I have no problem talking. So yeah.
I love talking to you so much. You were so much fun. So, are you ready for our VIP questions?
I'm ready for them. Bring it. Bring it.
All right. If you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what three things or people would you take with you?
The first column. Okay. I actually at first I thought you said columnist. I went, wow, I'm like the Mars Times. Wow, there's a newspaper on Mars, and I would want to work there. I have a job. This is great. I would take my husband, Derek. I would take Alexander, my dog.
You have to
Now,
take
does he
Alexander.
automatically go? Yeah, I got to take Alexander. Now, part of me thinks I should take a farmer because I need to eat, but I have to believe that there might be somebody that we're not going to be there unless there's some sort of food thing already set up. So you know what? Let's take Aaron Brockovich.
Oh, that way
Yeah.
if something happens with the water, you're good.
If there's a problem with water, yeah. So I'm assuming there's a farmer there, but if there's a Martian water issue, I'm so sad. So yeah, let's take Aaron Brockovich.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I
I'm
love
serious.
that.
If I were to take the one, yeah, I would probably take Aaron. So
You know,
I have to
that
call her.
question is intentionally worded to make you think about if there's already infrastructure there, and I love watching people's faces as they process all that in their mind. They're like, well, should I be practical? Should I take water? Do I need oxygen? Do I need a trip home? What? So I think that's very cool. Okay.
It's very interesting because you don't give everything away in the question. So
No. Well, this one I'm sure you're going to nail. What is one thing you do to start your day that sets you up for success?
oh, can it be more than one? Can it be sort of related things?
Is it like a routine?
Yeah. I mean, I
So
think
one
I have a
routine?
routine.
Okay.
The thing that I do is, unless, no, I don't sleep till noon, but I work for myself and I work from home. I actually allow my body to, unless I have a place to be or a meeting, I allow my body to decide when to get up. Now, not everybody can do that, but that helps me a lot. My body decides I want you to get up at 6:30. I want you to get up 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30. Yeah, it would be really odd if I went much past 8 or 8:30. So I actually allow my body to make that decision unless I have to be someplace because it's saying, hey, I'm good to go. And then I'm good to go. I get up, I walk and I get my cup of coffee and I start right away. I don't dilly-dally. I immediately go in, I immediately check email, and I'm not engaging in conversations yet, but I immediately start to go through really the administrative startup to my day immediately within 2 minutes.
Wow.
I'm right there and I'm starting. Yeah, I start right away. I do not waste time.
Wow.
And I've always done that. It's weird. I don't listen to music. I don't have anything. I don't have the TV on in the background. I don't like the extraneous noise and stuff. I like to have the focus of it. But yeah, my body tells me when to get up. I get up, get the coffee, and I go to work every day.
You're the second person to tell me that, and they said that they have started doing that and letting their body tell them when to wake up, and for health reasons, because sleep is so important. So I think that's interesting that you kind of brought that to my attention twice within a week. So you and one other person. So
Yeah.
Okay, my final question for you: if your life's
Final
work,
question. Do I win
yes,
$10,000 if I say it right?
maybe,
Okay.
I'm rich and famous.
Okay.
If your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
Oh God, that's kind of mean. It was summarized in a news article. Randall Kenneth Jones, brown-nosed, and name-dropped his way to unexpected success. That's why it would be that, because I would want people, I don't take myself that seriously.
Yeah.
Now, the subhead might be, something about his focus on, the subhead would be something about positive communication, creativity, the things that I support and I stand for. But yeah, if you're going to have a headline about my life, it's going to be a little bit shocking and unexpected and a little goofy and hopefully make you laugh. So
Well,
yeah,
my
I
face
have
hurts from
been very
smiling.
nice to a lot of. I'm the ultimate. I'm the ultimate name dropper, but those are the people I meet. So, and I'm proud of it. So, hey, call me a name dropper. That's what I do. I mean, I
Hey.
met these people. I'm very, very, very lucky.
I do the same thing. So, and I name drop your name drops. So,
Well, I'm just so blessed. It's ridiculous, and I'm aware of that. And I know there's people that really don't like it. They really think it's pretentious. I was like, this is the life I live. I don't. So, I'm very lucky And I work very hard to earn these people's trust. And, between the book and what the column in the book and the podcast, I'm at like 150. But I will say the one thing is you do not have to be famous to be on my show at all. You have to have a story. I have to be able to learn from you. And please let me say to everyone is I don't do anything we can't all do. I say this all the time. I don't own listening. I don't own being inquisitive. I don't own wanting to learn. There's no trademark on that. Everything I do, every single person can do on a daily basis with the people in their circles. They can ask to meet people too.
Gotcha.
I met Pat Benatar at 20. If you got a hero, you never know. You might be able to meet him.
I think that's amazing. All right. Well, we are definitely out of time. I'm so sorry, Randy. I so enjoy our conversations together. So I have one last thing to say to you.
Uh-oh.
I think you'll like this
Uh-oh.
one.
Okay.
Randy, you are a VIP.
Oh, well, thank you. I thank you very much.
And
I
that's a
appreciate
wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.